Okay, so you should now have your 9 pictures ready. One thing I noticed was that the duration of this composition was only 10 seconds. It's the same for all of them actually. The duration of our rainy scene is 20 seconds, and since we need our pictures to exist for the whole duration of this scene, we're actually going to need to extend those back to 20 seconds as well. Throughout the time you're working on projects, you'll probably encounter problems yourself, and you need to know how to solve them, and this is a case of just that. So to solve this problem, you go to Composition, Composition Settings, and change the duration to 20 seconds. Then come down here to the Zoom into Frame slider and drag it all the way to the left. Then drag select across all your layers and then come down to the end of those layers and drag those all the way to the right to the end of your composition so that it reaches the new end duration. So I'll do one more and then I'll hit pause. I'll do the same for all the 9 pictures and then you do the same and then we'll get back to making the pictures full. So jump into another photo frame, Composition, Composition Settings, new duration of 20 seconds and say OK. OK, so come down to the slider again, drag select all your layers, and then hover over the end and drag them to the end of your new duration. Okay, another thing I noticed is that I accidentally turned off the effect for the text on Burned Out Car, so I'm just going to fix that quickly too. Okay, so repeat that process for your remaining pictures and then I'll see you in this next part. Okay, problem encountered, problem solved. With your 9 pictures at the correct length, let's carry on. Go to your Asset Comps and select Photo Frame 1. Drag it below all your layers, but make sure it's above your ground texture. Activate 3D. Come over here where you see View. We want to have 2 views, so select Horizontal. In the extra view, we want to be able to see the top view, so if you haven't got that selected, it's here. The reason why we want to do this is we want to see where our ground texture is. This line here, and our photo frame is here. We want to make sure it's only just above the ground texture to begin with. Just click and drag it all the way through. Let's just have one view and make it the top view for now so you can see what I'm doing a bit better. So let's just identify this as our ground texture, and here is your photo frame. We don't want to go too close, we want it to be floating on top of the water, not like dead straight on the ground. Basically just make sure it doesn't go past the ground texture, otherwise it will just disappear. So about here is okay. So let's go back to the active camera view. So our picture is pretty big for our scene, so we're going to scale this down a little bit. I think about 30 to 40% is fine. I'm going to go with 40. Also, one thing we might need to do is add a little subtle drop shadow. So I'm going to turn on full resolution so you can see what's happening. With your photo selected, come to your effects and presets and start typing in drop. And then select drop shadow and either just double click it or drag and drop it onto your photo frame. So you can do this by eye really, whatever you think is appropriate. So I'm going to turn up the distance slightly and then bring up the softness quite a bit. And maybe just a tiny bit more opacity. The reason we're turning the direction to come this way is because we've got a light source here on the left, so all the shadows will be casting to the right. With the photo frame selected, press P for position, hold down Shift and press R to reveal the rotation properties also. Okay, so our pictures are going to be falling from some depth up here, and they're not going to fall perfectly straight, so let's add a little Z rotation. So making sure you're at the start of your composition, what we're going to do is add a keyframe to all of these properties apart from orientation. With all those keyframes added, go back to your photo frame again and press U and then hit U again. This way we'll see only the parameters that we've activated a keyframe for. So let's drag along now to about 3 seconds. What we'll also do is turn off these rain layers for now, because we don't need to be seeing those and we don't need to be wasting our RAM with them. With those keyframes added, our time marker at 3 seconds, let's add more keyframes. This is how our picture is going to look once it's hit the ground, and what we need to do now is go back to the beginning of our composition and drag the Z property on our position and start bringing that towards us. So keep dragging left, and let's also take this back down to half resolution to speed things up. Start adding some rotation now too. This will help it look like it's tumbling through the sky. So keep dragging left on that Z property there for the position, and drag it so it comes past our camera, so it comes out of the view of the composition. Okay, let's have a look at that, and let's see what it's like when it falls through our scene. For me at the moment that's okay. We can adjust things as we go along. What we've got to keep in mind here is that this is made from paper. It's not a heavy material, so it will actually naturally be falling slowly anyway. To show you what I mean, let's have a look at 2 seconds. Yeah, for me, even though it's only building around preview, I can tell it's too quick. Let's say 3 seconds for now. Maybe let's see what it's like at 2.5 seconds once we've got all our photos in here. But 3 seconds for me is fine. One thing I will do though is reduce the size of the picture slightly. A little bit smaller will help. So with the photo frame selected, I'm going to hit S and let's go down to 30%. This will also give the impression that our picture is actually falling from further, like a higher height. Yeah, I like that. I think 30% works better. Another thing I want to do is it's a bit more of a stylistic touch here, and it's basically to add a blur around our edges here. It can be a bit like a fake depth of field. So let's come up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. Let's call it Edge Blur. With the layer selected, let's come up here and type Gaussian. Drag it onto the Edge Blur adjustment layer. Then with the blurriness, we'll start kind of high and then we'll go back if we need to. So let's say 15 for now. With this line, the way you fix that is by selecting Repeat Edge Pixel, and that will remove this for us. With your Edge Blur selected, go to the Ellipse Mask tool, then select around our frame, something like that. Then invert the selection and feather it in a bit. Let's have a look at what that looks like. Just turn that on and off so you can see how it makes a difference. Maybe full resolution will show you a little better. I like how it softens our edges here. I know we are going to be seeing this moving for our scene and it's not just going to be held here, but I like how the effect it has around the edge. I tend to do this quite a lot on my projects, especially this kind of dark, grungy scene. So anyway, let's continue bringing our pictures in. I'm going to go back down to half resolution and I'm going to drag our time indicator over to 3 seconds. Let's go back to our project panel and start bringing in our pictures in again. We want to be making a few copies of our photo frame 1, So that way when we swap these pictures around, they'll inherit everything from the scale and the position. So I'm going to do the first one now, and with the photo frame selected, press Command D to make a copy, and then hit P for position, and then I'm going to stroke towards the left. Okay, I can see that I'm making some extra unwanted keyframes, so to fix that I'm just going to zoom into the frame, and then I'm going to hit K to jump to the next keyframe, and then I'm just going to drag this keyframe and place it over it. So we won't be having all of these pictures fall down at the same time, but for now we're just going to bring them all in with the keyframes all at the same position, and then we're going to stagger them through time so that they're coming in at somewhat random orders. Also, to make things a little easier, we want to make sure that photo frame 1 is the one at the top. So select the second copy of photo frame 1, come up to photo frame 2, click and drag whilst holding the Alt key, and this should replace your picture. So to make sure that works, you have to have both the items highlighted, the one in your project panel and the one in your layers. So let's also add some Z rotation to this so that it doesn't look the same as our other picture, because we don't want them to look identical at the end of the day. So I'm just going to move my work area up a bit, because this area is going to be populated with quite a few extra pictures and we want to be able to see all of them clearly. So let's make a copy of photo frame 2, and then come up to our asset comps again, and let's drag and hold down Alt, hovering over the photo, and then release to place photo frame 3. You won't see it instantly because photo frame 2 is directly above it. Let's drag that to a new position, and remember it's just the Z rotation that we are changing slightly. So before we get too far ahead, we're going to need to delete the keyframes at the beginning of the composition for photo frame 3 and 2. Because what we don't want to see is them falling through the sky in the exact same position and intersecting into each other. So what we'd do is select these keyframes and remove those. We'll also do the same for photo frame 2. So select photo frame 2, press U to reveal the keyframes, drag select and hit delete. Let's collapse those again. With photo frame 3 selected, press Command D and make a copy. And with the copy selected, let's press P for its position, and let's drag that to a new location. So you don't have to have the exact same position for me. Let's just rotate this for now with the Z and change its position. I mean, we can have some of these overlapping, and in fact I think it probably will look good if it does. But let's get all our pictures in first, and then if we want to we can make a different arrangement. So I forgot to change that to photo frame 4 immediately. So with the duplicate selected, let's come up to our assets comp, select photo frame 4, click and drag whilst pressing Alt, and then release to replace. So you should now be comfortable enough to bring in the rest of your own pictures. I'm going to hit pause now, and I'm going to fill up the rest of my scene. I don't think you want to see me repeating this process over and over again, because it is a bit repetitive, and I think you should have the hang of it now. So I'm going to hit pause now, and I'll see you in the next part.